The comedy genre can be very tricky. What reads funny might not pan out well on camera, and there is always a chance that the jokes might fall flat. Comedy dramas are meant to be lighthearted, but then again filmmakers can also explore complex ideas, albeit in a fun way. Netflix's Turkish series Platonic, Blue Moon Hotel simply aims to be funny, with no complications, no elevated ideas, just plain jokes and laughs. There is always demand for the no-brainer series, but is Platonic, Blue Moon Hotel worth your time? Read below to find out. As the title suggests, the comedy-drama series is centered around a boutique hotel run by Nezahat. She took care of the property, and made sure that everything around was perfect and clean, although she never really had guests checking in. From a business perspective, the hotel was a terrible proposition. She had to spend more than she made just to keep things running. But the Blue Moon Hotel was an emotion for her, and she didn't intend to part ways with it. After her husband passed away, Nezahat felt the need to keep the business alive, because they had built the hotel together, and it was a symbol of their love. Losing it meant giving up on a sacred memory, and that wasn't really an option. Kaan, the CEO of a real estate company, had been eyeing the Blue Moon Hotel, and after his assistant, Metap, failed to convince Nezahat to sell the property, he decided to step in. Without any delay, he booked tickets to fly out to Alicante and made a reservation at the Blue Moon Hotel to get a close read on Nezahat so that he could come up with an offer that she wouldn't want to reject. Nezahat had no idea that Kaan had a vested interest in staying at her hotel. She assumed he was a regular tourist who somehow stumbled across her hotel website on the internet. Nezahat made every effort to impress her guests, and the enthusiasm was quite visible. The moment her two daughters, Gülten and Nezahat, set their eyes on Kaan, they fell in love. Finding eligible young men was quite a challenge in the small town, so they desperately tried to win the affection of the only attractive man who was in their vicinity. Gülten, the eldest, feared dying old and single. She got a few cosmetic procedures to appear more attractive, and she hoped that her sensual charm would help her find a way to his heart. Nezahat's approach was entirely different. She believed in the idea of soulmates, and she was invested in understanding the true meaning of spiritual connection and had been learning ways to achieve it. Once Nezahat figured out that Kaan was her soulmate, she tried to engage in spiritual activities with him to convince him that she was indeed the woman he'd been searching for. Both the sisters had no idea that Kaan wanted to buy the hotel, which was the only reason why he'd been flirting with them. So, did the sisters foolishly give away the hotel for love? Well, you have to watch the show to find the answer. Apart from the two sisters falling in love with one-man plot, the series also delves into the supernatural. At times, it teases the idea of witchcraft manipulating the people of the town, and there were instances when Platonic, Blue Moon Hotel indulged in alien theory. Since the main plot is wafer-thin, naturally, the series had to resort to supernatural explanations to somehow complicate the scenario and offer a twisted ending. While witches and aliens taking control of a town could have been a fun idea to play with, the execution was messy. There was a lot going on, and all of it is just for gags. There is no real depth to any of the subplots. It felt like someone came up with random ideas and incorporated them because they thought it might be funny, but the result was chaotic. Trying to tell the story over 8 episodes didn't make any sense. What could have been a no-brainer entertaining 2-hour-long watch ended up stretched to a point where the jokes turned stale, and the plot became a bore. The two sisters kept on repeating themselves, and in every episode they did one silly thing or another just to keep things moving. Not every film or show has to be profound. Some are just meant for fun, and Platonic, Blue Moon Hotel could have been that show if it was trimmed a little. The characters are hilarious, and they are the best part of the show. Each of them was unique and unpredictable, especially the two sisters. Their polar opposite characteristics worked brilliantly. Also, the boutique hotel was just the perfect setup, and even the dire condition of the small town added to the humor, but instead of focusing on the little details and keeping it compact, a lot of unnecessary angles were added, perhaps to stretch it out longer, or just for the thrill of it. I really don't get the obsession with revealing every twist and turn in the final few minutes of the show, and that too in a comedy drama. After boring us with the same story with little to no development for 7 episodes, the sudden urgency to take the audience by surprise and offer a decent conclusion felt out of place. Stylistically, the series is just like any other average show on Netflix. The mockumentary format adds an intrigue. You're told from the very beginning that something big and bad happens at the very end, and that was why the characters were sharing their side of the story to explain how things had unfolded on the night of the blue moon. Some in the audience might stick around until the very end for the sake of finding out what happens. The overall performances of the cast were convincing. Gups Ozzy shines as Gulten. She aptly embodies her frustration and desperation. And Oika Karayel is hilarious as the tree-hugging, soft-spoken Nezahat. The characters might be the only reason for the audience to watch all 8 episodes. They are well written and funny. The mother-daughter's relationship could have been explored more earnestly. The witches and aliens angles should have been better executed, and the duration is the biggest drawback of the show.